What's up, guys? It's Modern Craftsman Monday. No Tyler today. Tyler's wrapping up a job a little far away from his house, and he is going to crank that thing out. So we hop in this week with Jeff from Home Repair Tutor. You guys aren't familiar with him. He's got, John, did we figure out how many videos he's got? 10 years? 10 years worth of videos?
Videos, yeah.
And
it starts off slow. It starts off
you
slow.
were very, very quiet, paying attention.
I was trying to figure the whole thing out, and then trying to figure out the angle of the pod and why we have him on. And once we got going, it was definitely informative, and it was fun. So if you're not digging the first 10 minutes, give it some time. It's definitely worth it.
Well, it's also very different than what we typically talk about.
Correct.
This week is definitely, more centered around content creation, how creators in this space, and and I say creators, and I think sometimes feel like that limits to, like furniture makers and woodworkers for some reason, but it's more than that. He's a remodeling contractor essentially. Did not start in remodeling, basically self-taught, and then just chose to take what he was learning and teaching himself to a video camera to basically help, as he says, individuals get through remodeling tasks. But I think as you can see, if you've seen any of his content, he's actually put together some really great content, and we talk about his strategy behind that and how it's led him to a full-time salary. Didn't give us the salary. We try to get the salary out of him, but
try tax bracket didn't work.
Tax bracket. I don't like what do you say? Like, oh, I'm tax bracket F.
I don't know. Did he say it? I have to listen.
No, he didn't. He didn't. Okay. But are they numbered?
I don't know. I just figured he'd say a certain value, certain dollar amount.
Let's look that up. Like, I want to know what letter tax bracket I am. I'm probably A.
I don't.
Well, either way, guys, this podcast is brought to you by Duration Molding and Millwork. It was great seeing the Duration team at JLC Live. Their beveled siding products continue to be a showstopper, and they recently introduced a shake panel. Is a great simulation of real shakes, requiring just a small fraction of the installation time that real shakes do. Next stop on the in-person show circuit is the Idea Show in King of Prussia, Pennsylvania on Wednesday, September 15th. Admittance is free with prior registration. So if you'd like to check that product out in person, just register at ideashow.org. That's IDEASSHOW.org. I knew I was going to mess that up. To learn more about Duration Polyash products, please visit their website at durationmillwork.com and be sure to check them out on IG.
It's worth a visit, just for the record.
The shakes are cool.
We crashed into them at the JLC show in Rhode Island, and it was great to see, obviously, people in person, but also seeing the product and mess around with it, put it in your hands. It was an absolute no-brainer. So if you are sick of hearing about it on the pod and you want to see it in real life, if you're close to the area, register, pop in there, talk a little shop. I think it's really cool is they have a lot of the moldings painted in black. So it draws your eye like, wait a minute. They break this down. They get a lot of stuff sitting in water. Just showing how the durability does stack up, how it stacks up better than most, to be honest with you, better than wood. So
it's actually funny. I asked them, I was like, is this just going to happen? Like, is this product, because it's a coal byproduct. And I said, I'm like, or coal ash, right? I'm like, is this stuff going to run? Like, are we going to run out of this material? And I forget what he said. He was like, well, China just built X amount of coal mines, so I don't think so. Or it's got, it's like right now, like with what we have on the planet, we could sustain 100+ years. So
I think it's a great product.
Yeah.
Again, everyone's gonna take shots at it. It's more flexible than wood. Dude, some of the nicest pieces of wood you'll handle with the greatest of care because it's a beautiful piece of wood that you can't duplicate. This is no different than that. Just because it's being mass produced doesn't mean you can throw it around and it won't get dinged up. Come on. You're still a carpenter. Get over it.
I know your voice because I swear your videos come up every day when I log in, and I sit there and I watch every one of them. Like the way, and that's why I reached out to you originally. It's like the way that you describe and walk through the process, I think is just so well done. So yeah, I think that I would consider you a pro.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I try to put on my deep voice for the videos. Actually, there's a funny story because I do most of those videos at like 5 in the morning.
Oh,
So I'm
yeah,
trying not to wake up people and especially our dog. So, the low voice is actually functional.
that's
A little,
hilarious.
a little midnight magic.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. 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 So,
Jeff, real quick, just for formality, we have your permission to use this audio and video for podcast and promotional on social media, right?
yeah, that's fine. That's no problem.
Cool. Jeff, for those that don't know you, why don't you give a quick introduction?
Well,
Who you
my
are,
name's
what you
Jeff.
do, where you're from.
Yeah, I'm Jeff Patterson. I'm from Home Repair Tutor, and we're based out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And basically, I started Home Repair Tutor like 10 years ago because I was working on all these different rental properties that I had. That was kind of the impetus behind me doing home improvement. And I just couldn't find anybody. Well, a lot of the people I got, either they didn't do great work or I couldn't find somebody. And so I just ended up trying to do a lot of different things myself. Um, so that was kind of the beginning of Home Repair Tutor. And I think it was like 2012 when I did my first YouTube video. And and in 2013, I got a little bit more serious about that and started making more YouTube videos, and that kind of took off. So from there, I just started doing more blog posts and learning more skills and adding to that. And that's what kind of got me here.
So you started it 10 years ago based on, you said, rental properties?
Yeah, so at that time, the rental property market in Pittsburgh was pretty affordable to buy rental properties. And in order to, save money and to get them up to speed in terms of trying to rent them out, I would do a lot of that work myself. And that was kind of the catalyst behind everything that I was doing with Home Repair Tutor. So as you can imagine, there were a lot of projects to do and a lot of different ways that I could go. So that was fun.
So it was in now from the outside the media side, like the video side of it, was that your primary, income, was this rental property market, like getting into flipping them, holding on to them?
No,
You
no,
laugh.
actually, it wasn't. No, I went to school for chemistry, so I went to the University of Pittsburgh here in Pittsburgh for that. And then I started out in like
Cool.
technical sales. So I was doing technical sales for a long time. And but on the side, I was doing all these rental properties and learning different skill sets, and of course, being a homeowner for 17 years, you obviously run into projects you have to do at home. But anyhow, no, that wasn't the primary way in which I actually was making a living at that time.
How are you learning these skill sets? Because you certainly didn't have a home repair tutor for yourself.
Yeah. Well, I mean, reading books and, talking to mostly it was like reading books and trial and error and like that was it. I mean, even though YouTube was around back then, I don't think it was necessarily as big as it is today. And so I didn't even really
Mm.
use YouTube myself, which is kind of ironic. I was mostly reading books and then trying things out and seeing what would work and, getting advice from the folks at Home Depot or friends who had done that kind of stuff before. So that's really that. And honestly, that's really what kind of inspired me to do Home Repair Tutor. Oftentimes, you know how it is, like you're trying to put in a toilet or you're trying to put in a vanity and the instructions are just so bad that you're like, oh my gosh, like, couldn't they have done this better? Well, maybe I'll make a video and try to make it a little bit easier for the next person. So that was the impetus behind Home Repair Tutor.
Now did it start on YouTube?
It didn't. It started out as a blog. So in like 2011, it started out as a blog. And then in like April of 2012, that's when I did my very first YouTube video. But even then, it was kind of
Mhm.
sporadic. I just thought to myself, like, well, if I do like one a month, that's pretty cool. And then I would post one and it would get, a fair amount of views and continue to grow. And then I'd post another. And what I saw at that point was this ability to scale that I'd never seen before. I just thought that that was like the coolest thing where you put out, especially like an evergreen video on home improvement. If you put out a video on how to fix a toilet, if it's popular today, it's probably going to be popular in like 5 to 7 years because that kind of technology doesn't really change all that much. So I just thought like, oh, I'm going to try to make like evergreen content that helps people out. And I had fun doing it. I really enjoyed the process. That's what kind of inspired me the most was just the process itself.
What does evergreen mean?
So in my mind, evergreen means that basically the popularity of that topic stays popular for a very long time. So like when you think of like technology, like the MacBook or the PC you're using today, it's probably going to be outdated in a year or two. But with home
Right. If I did a
improvement,
video Yeah, if I did a
yeah,
video on, like, this is how I use my iPhone 12, in a year from now, no one's gonna watch that video or even 2 years from now.
exactly. So I was just thinking like, all right, well, if I choose to do a project, I'm going to try to do one that's ever like, so changing garage door springs, that's probably going to be evergreen unless the technology changes.
Oh,
Fixing a
that
fixing a leak.
sounds like a nightmare.
Yeah, I'm with John. That one thing that I'll probably will never touch is a garage door spring. Those things are so
No
wound up.
way.
Jeff's like,
Yeah.
"It's not that bad. Watch my video. In 5 minutes, you'll be able to do it like a pro."
Yeah, I'm not saying it's for everybody, but I wanted to, try, especially when money is tight. You're like, oh boy, like first of all, I can't find anybody to do it, and then second, like when
Mhm,
I do, I know it's going to cost me an arm and a leg.
mhm.
Yeah.
So being in the rental stuff, obviously you started educating yourself, talking to people at Home Depot, reading books, things like that. You created this blog out of necessity in the sense that you thought that you would be able to make it easier for the next person. 2012, you post your first YouTube video, but why YouTube if YouTube wasn't even something that you were using? I think about like I use Instagram for,
Mhm.
business, so I am naturally then going to contribute back to it. I couldn't imagine contributing to something that I'm not also using.
Yeah, I just at the time, again, I just thought it was like the best platform for education, so that was the place to go. And it's not like I didn't watch some videos. I did, but I just being have children too, and I was working a full-time job and trying to do this stuff on the side. I really think what it broke down to was I just didn't have the time to consume the content.
Mm.
So, and then, Facebook was around, but it just wasn't in my mind in 2010, 11, like the place to get like the post educational stuff. That was mostly like personal, which I never did anyway, but that wasn't really the place for educational content.
Well, I mean, social media at that time, I mean, Insta was short format. Remember, it was like
Mhm.
15-second clips, even on, I mean, maybe stories were 15 seconds remember, back in the day. So, I mean, nothing was really long form. So, for you to get your, tutorial across, it would have been multiple posts, which probably would have more aggravation than just throwing it up on YouTube. That's what I'm thinking in my head. Because I went
Yeah,
to Instagram because I didn't want to do anything. It was just like, hey, short little bursts where I don't have to think. I can just go and it can just paste it all together and I can be out of there. So it was more of
right.
just kind of a casual thing, but I can see from your point of view and yours. I had my head down for the last 5 minutes going through your whole scenario, who you are and what you are, and your post, and I was like, it's dynamite, super clean. But yeah, to me, I feel like YouTube was the only spot to do it, unless it was like a Vine or something like that back in 2010. So it's good that you did that.
Yeah,
So that was a catalog of it all.
yeah, totally. It was one of those things where I just, and it's funny is a lot of the videos that I did probably back in 2013 when I started to get serious about it, a lot of those videos still perform. It's kind of amazing to me that they're 8 years old and people still comment on them, and hopefully the videos are still helping people out. That was really the intent, was to help people out as much as possible and try to make a I'm not saying that those videos are the best. I don't think they are, but at least there was like some snippets that would possibly assist people.
The how long were you doing how long were you doing the video uploads and things like that before you realized that this could be, another source of income, or, or when you probably got more serious with it, where it's like, and originally you were just trying to kind of give back, I assume, based on the fact that everyone was so free to share their knowledge. This was your way
Mhm.
of kind of repaying the industry. Is that right?
Well, mostly it's just the idea of just trying to help people out, like individuals out, not so much like an industry, but like,
Yeah.
individual homeowners. I would, thinking back to then. But I think probably around 2014, 15, like I saw the channel growing. And then we kind of did like a little bit of a left turn. And unfortunately, I feel like the channel suffered a little bit because the algorithms, for home improvement, they mostly like variability. So they like, I think most of the algorithms appreciate that more than just pounding one topic. So that's a whole different, story. But, I was doing a whole bunch of different like home improvement projects, and we decided to kind of focus mostly on bathroom remodeling. And that's when I really got the idea to do courses in like 2013,
Mhm.
2014. And
So
then,
relatively short, like a short time into it.
yeah, like courses has always been, I had like an initial course that I tried to launch, and it was about it was basically about like little repairs that you could do. And there was another platform that approached me about that in 13, 14. And I can't even remember the name of it, but they had like kind of developed a platform like Teachable almost. And they took some of my videos and we made them into a course that was like 20 bucks, and they would sell it to people. And I saw there was like a potential in that. But then I came out with my own independent course because I just didn't like the idea of a platform possibly owning the content and also setting the price. That was like a big, like red flag to me because it was like Udemy, like they would try to get me to do like courses and stuff like that. And then what I was seeing those platforms do, you have a course creator, they put out a course for like, let's say 50 bucks, and then Udemy sends all of these people, people who belong to their platform and like, hey, JDP's course on bathroom renovation is now like 80% off. You're like, geez, like that's great for them, but for the course creator, that's kind of BS. So that's what probably like 14, 15, that's when I started to think about like, hey, I really want to come out with my own independent thing where we can set the price and we're not going to get discounted and end up basically not making any money. So, but then you also have a lot of liability, and I think that's perhaps a topic that should be addressed by most creators is, having some type of liability insurance, because if you're going to have like a course and, be teaching people stuff, at least in America, it's a litigious society. So, unfortunately, the type of insurance that we have, like that's a whole separate expense. And here in Pennsylvania, it's like, 5 or 6 times the amount of money as like a regular contractor's insurance. So there are like all these different things that I feel like, are important for creators to know about before they do a course. But I definitely believe it's, in many ways, it's almost like better than like YouTube.
So, all right, I feel like you opened up a bunch of doors there. So let's pick one
Yeah.
to go down. From going back to like 2014 when you decided to make this a course and really kind of focusing on it, and you talked about, honing in on kind of one direction. The left turn that you mentioned was the fact that you tried to spread yourself amongst a bunch of different projects, right? Is that
Mhm.
what you were referring to? Is like this left turn and focus?
Yeah, so, like, it was almost like a fork in the road, so, I could continue to go straight and just do a whole bunch of different home improvement projects and, post
Or
those
you
on
could focus and
YouTube.
yeah.
Yeah, or we could try to focus on
So
a niche, and so I felt
so it
strongly that
sounds like good.
well, I just felt strongly like if we focus on a niche, then that could probably serve us better outside of social media.
And, in what you said about the algorithm, how it seems to favor the opposite. So, my question around that is, are is there do you spend any of your attention on the algorithm and how that impacts the content that you create?
Hmm.
Or have you kind of chosen to ignore that? At least from my experience, it's like if the more you pay attention to it, the more it changes. So if you
Yeah.
kind of just, stick to what you believe in or the approach that you want to take, you seem to, almost automatically adapt to it.
Well, it's something to pay attention to. It's always changing, and there are multiple algorithms within the, like YouTube or Google universe. And it's different for every single platform. That's what's difficult, I think, for content creators today. It's always changing. I mean, it changes all the I literally feel like it changes every day. So in terms of the algorithm, initially it would favor, multiple posts, right? So like you would post like if you they would say like, oh, you need to post like every day. And I just thought that was crazy. I thought it was crazy because number one, I had a family and I didn't want to do that. And number two, it can drive you crazy, literally, because you're serving just the algorithm. Well, it's
Right.
like, hey, look, I want to live my life. I don't want to like try to make advertising dollars on YouTube. So I can only do one video a week. But I do feel like no matter what platform you go to, the more outlandish and outrageous and the more sensational you can make it, um, probably the more popular that video is going to be. So one of the things that I've noticed is you see the thumbnails with their people with their mouths open and gaping, and they try to pull this shtick, and you're like, holy, like what the heck are you doing?
Right.
It's like you have a 40-year-old acting like a 10-year-old, and it just seems ridiculous to me. So I never really wanted to go.
I'm so happy that you're saying that because Doug has made me do some of these, and he's like, "All right,
Yeah,
make a crazy face," and I'm like,
yeah,
"All right," and he's like, "Perfect." I'm like, "This is ridiculous," and but the funny thing is it works.
yeah,
Like, it's
right.
like
It
one of
does.
the top it's one of the top ranking things to grow your channel is
Yes,
like you said, outlandish, like, ridiculous thumbnail, and it's, we were talking about, who's the 2 big ones? Like Mr. Beast,
right.
who's like
Yeah,
64 million subscribers, and it just it is, it's funny, and it goes to what you said, it like, it can drive you crazy because 'cause you're
yeah.
feeding into this and almost ignoring what your original intent, in your case, helping people was.
Right. I think it's funny because I view myself as mostly a student. I'll never be a guru of anything. I just enjoy being a student of a lot of different topics. And I also like reading books that are like 50 or 60 years old on the topics of like, public relations and marketing. And it's amazing to me because the authors of those books, the content that they wrote back then, 50, 100 years ago, it's still relevant to this day. So that's another example of evergreen content. So everything they describe in those marketing books is exactly what you're seeing on YouTube in one way, shape, or form. So it really hasn't changed all that much. It's really just the the platforms have changed. So like back then it was magazines and network TV. And now you could say like magazines have turned into YouTube and TikTok and Instagram, but all the same shtick is still out there. And so I just never really. I mean, the algorithms. I mean, they're important to understand, and don't get me wrong, it can help you out a lot. And I feel like I almost pay attention more to them on Instagram because I like Instagram a lot, and TikTok. Don't even get me
Mhm.
started on that because that's like I just don't think a follower is necessarily you can't equate your followers on TikTok with your followers on Instagram and YouTube. They're all I feel like TikTok manipulates people so much. I mean, I think it's a good
Yeah.
platform, but they definitely manipulate the creators. Because if I don't post a little while, all of a sudden I start getting all these notifications, that people are like giving me, they're commenting or they're liking the video. So it's like you can choose to accept that the algorithms manipulate you and don't ignore that and try to live your life according to yourself, or you can ignore all that stuff and let the algorithm manipulate you to do what they want you to do, which is create more content. But I guess my question is all this content out there, is it really good content, and is it good for us to consume it? That's a whole different story. And is the content legit? So, like, you have all these people posting tutorials on YouTube, but nobody's policing the tutorials. So
Yeah.
nobody's saying like, oh yeah, this is, and definitely follow me because this is definitely the code, international
Mhm.
residential code. This is the uniform plumbing code. I mean, some of the, I guess, like good plumbers on YouTube will say all that stuff, but all the other general things, how do you know? Like, if, I mean, even
Well, I
my
think
own
that's
videos, how do you
yeah,
know?
and right, and it's like that's, the unfortunate part of social media in general is that, it's like it's hard, like, I'm sure we've all talked offline about like what can you believe? Like, and then we question what we see on social media, then we question what we see on the news, then you're sitting at dinner with your friend and he has one opinion on something and you have the opposite
Mhm.
opinion. And it's like, well, I saw this article. It's like, was it a real article?
Yeah,
Who
yeah,
wrote it? Like, and it's just it's I never thought about it from the like the how to side of it, where it's like no one is policing that, and it's like someone could, I mean, you talk about TikTok. I think there's this guy on there, like Contractor Ken or something like that, and he just is super outlandish. Where it's like he just, he opens a thing like with the F word, and it's like, all right, we're
uh,
walking through this, and it's like, but it's designed to be like humorous, and
right,
like maybe
right,
he's walking through something, and you don't. But you could listen to it and hear what he's saying, and not know whether or not that's the right way to do it.
yeah.
And, but you bring up a good point about the liability. I mean, I've never even thought about the liability side of like, most of our videos are more about the why we're doing things more than the how, but
Hmm.
there's definitely a how to aspect to some of them. What is, how do you realize that there was a whole insurance backing behind that?
Well, I think it's just experience in the corporate world. I had a lot of experience
Mm.
in the technical sales that I was in. There was always this concern about being sued, or some governing body laying the hammer down on the company. So it was always something that was just kind of drilled into our minds. Like, you really have to pay attention to the liability, what you say in email, what you text message to people. It's all on record. And the same thing goes for anything that goes on social media. It's like it's on record. So it just got into it kind of ingrained in my head. Like, look, if you're going to do this, you better be insured, and you better have the right insurance. And who's to say if what you got is even the best one? It's a very cloudy gray topic. But and also being in rental properties, having the right LLC formulation and talking to an attorney about that. And then obviously there's intellectual property rights that you need to get into, and it's a whole separate topic that can get really messy real quick. So there are all these different things that I'm not sure that being addressed in the content creator community. But fortunately, some of the marketing creators that I followed on social media, and especially my mentor who taught me how to build courses and stuff, that was something that was brought up. And back like 5-7 years ago, that's when I started carrying insurance and stuff. But I do think it's important forever is posting to social media. So something to think
Do you think,
about.
do you think that it's prevented you from creating content?
No, I don't think so. I mean, what it really does is help you hone in on like, hey, look, if we're going to be doing this and you're going to be showing how to use a tool, you have to add a disclaimer. or you have to tell people like, hey, be careful, if you're going to be doing this, make sure you wear all the right PPE, stuff like that. I think the other thing is, if once somebody starts getting sued for their content, like on YouTube or Instagram, um, that could be really bad for those platforms too. But I really also feel like the platform should protect the creators in some way, shape, or form. Um, almost, I don't know what the answer is there, but almost like the platforms should, like choose like several creators and be like, these are our preferred creators who, we
Mhm.
trust in and that we follow, and we try to make sure that they're doing a good job. So they almost have like the YouTube stamp of approval. But that is almost, I couldn't even imagine what YouTube would do. Like, that's almost like even beyond what I could think about. But that would be, they're trying to get
I'm
people,
s- I'm
they're
s-
trying to get creators to create courses right now. So it's an issue.
I'm surprised it's not just in the terms of agreement when you sign up for YouTube and that stuff, that YouTube's not at fault for anything that's named in these situations or these classes. Same difference that if you sign up for the class, you can basically, it's like sports, you know,
Right.
that USA Hockey's not liable for you breaking your ankle in a game that's happened 2,000 miles away from their headquarters. It's definitely a valid point. I just, in my same thought process, I'm thinking like that Fry Island concert thing where
Oh,
they
yeah.
hired a bunch
Yeah.
of models to be like,
Yeah.
hey, this is the best thing ever. And the whole thing was smoke and mirrors. And I think maybe the one guy got arrested,
Yeah. Yeah.
that kept like taking money and burying that thing in the ground. And it's just like, I think the hardest thing is what is real. What is
Mhm.
I get that you can change your opinion on stuff and change your approach, and I think that's only adds value to who you are is if you grow and show that. But doing it wrong and putting it out there, and there's so many renovation people that I watch now that yeah, I'm not gonna crap on them, but I remember it was Keystone Carpenter back in the day. He admits it. He was awesome. He was doing this video, and I was watching it. He was doing this renovation in Pennsylvania. I think it was Pennsylvania, right? Penn. And and he's like, yeah, look at this. I'm doing this. He starts naming off all the terms of the roof, and all of them are wrong. He has not one of them right. And it was like the rake, the freeze, this, that, and I'm watching it going, man, this dude has no idea. And then I'll go back to work or whatever, and then a couple more stories pop up, and I watch them like an hour later. And the best part about it, like just talk about authenticity, is he's like, hey, remember I just talked about all that? He's on the roof, talked about all this. He goes, my dad just watched my video and called me out on everything I just said being wrong. And it was like, I love the kid for that. And I've been following him ever since. And he's kind of grown, but he never said that he was a guru or he was. I
Yeah.
think how I take social media is that it's where people are in their career. If
Yeah.
you're a homeowner and you're posting something, it's a timeline for you that you can go back and catch that and go, wow, that was awful. Like you said, your first couple of videos from 9 years ago, whatever it was, you're like, they weren't the best. The lighting was different, technology stuff you could afford. It's all changed, the tools, technique, everything, and that's what makes you authentic. By not saying I'm the authentic, home improvement tutor. It's more of that kind of authenticity that gets spoken. That's what's really captures like my eye and my ear, when
Yeah.
people can upfront talk about it and be like, yeah, you know what? That was crap. But that's where Keystone got me that first day of stories. He was just like, yep, I'm going to admit it. That was all wrong. This is what this is. And this is that. It was really funny.
Yeah, those kind of videos, I'm sure, he probably looks back at them and cringes a little bit, but it shows like his authenticity, which is really important. So, yeah, yeah, I understand that. Yeah, things do change. It's funny because when I first started filming videos, I used this little like Kodak handy cam, and it was like literally this, it was like a phone, and I put it on this little cheap uh like tripod, and like the audio was bad. So the thing is, like, yeah, now we're shooting in 4K, and we have lavalier mics and all that crazy stuff. So anyhow, yeah, it changes over time, and that's what makes YouTube kind of funny, because you can see that.
Progression, yeah. The going back to Oh my gosh, I just lost my train. Oh, no. So going back to like the liability side of it, I think about as you're talking about it, I'm like, a lot of creators would, just say, I'm not going to go through the trouble of taking the legal route or making sure I'm insured and protected. But I think a
Mhm.
big kind of asterisk to this is the fact that, you know, you're teaching a course, so it's someone's paying for knowledge. So it's a little bit different than kind of consuming just day-to-day content, I would assume. I think
Mhm.
that, John, to your point, I think there's probably a good protection in like Instagram and YouTube and things like that where it's like, you're liable for what you watch and you consume and what you take from there. It's like this stupid milk crate challenge that's going on,
I
right?
know. It's just
I've
like the
seen
same
like
thing.
I've seen like literally 4 guys break their leg doing it, and it's like,
Yeah.
you know, they can't, it's not like they're gonna go back and be like, "I'm suing the guy that started this challenge," because it's just there's
No,
nothing
they'll
to.
sue Hood Milk
Yeah.
for the milk crates.
Yeah.
They're the biggest
They're not
umbrella there.
they're not stable. But you're charging, you're charging for the courses, so there's
Yeah.
this, kind of business aspect to it. You mentioned that you had a mentor. I don't know if you're willing to share his name or talk about it, but what, that came into play as far as when you decided to create, a business out of that?
Yeah, so this was like back in 2012, 13, and this guy, he was in a totally different, he wasn't in home improvement or anything like that. And his name is David Siteman Garland, and he's really good at marketing and teaching online courses. And so his course on, I know it sounds hokey, but he had a course on
No.
teaching you how to build a course. But back then it was really helpful because it walked you through everything step by step. And even, like I said, I consider myself a student. So while I was going through the course, I was studying how that was built and how that could apply to what I wanted to do. And that kind of gave me the
Mhm.
blueprint for how to build courses. But really, it was several years later until I figured out, it's not just about building the course. You actually need to be good at marketing. You need to be
Yeah.
good at promoting what you've built and took all this time to organize and put together. I mean, it was probably like a solid 3 or 4 years after that where I kind of like had this, maybe even longer, maybe like 5 years later, where I was like, yeah, I need to really focus on the marketing. And I wasn't even on Instagram seriously until like 2019, something like that.
Mm.
And the reason why I wanted to get on Instagram was another marketing channel. Any good marketer will tell you need to have market penetration. So you need to have penetration on different platforms. And like YouTube, when people are on YouTube, their whole mindset is, well, I'm going to find a video that's going to help me out with this. I'm not going to pay for a course, at least most people. So then I started focusing on Instagram because I felt like, hey, that could be a really great place to put together these short videos that then promote the course. And I feel strongly that that helped out a lot. Like having that focus and going from like, you know, basically my goal was to go from like 0 to like 10,000 followers in like a year. And then we crushed that. And I think we did that in like 9 months or something. So
I
that
was gonna say 10 minutes because I
kind
have
of
like
made me
150,000 right now.
well, yeah. So like anyhow, the idea was like, well, I see again in Instagram very much what I saw in YouTube back in 2011, like this ability to scale up but quicker. And so that's what got me really excited. But yeah, the whole course thing began in 2013, and without David's help, I don't think I would have been able to like really figure that out.
You say that a lot of people will just kind of find how to do this on YouTube for free, and I think
Mhm.
that's, that's an accurate statement. I think everyone kind of looks towards the free version, right? And it's like they go
Yeah.
on your website and find the free version, or there's so many, there's tens of thousands of courses out there right now, and it's
Hmm.
like, and you can pay for them, and one of the things I've realized that as we continue to create content, it's like, well, yeah, that information's always going to be free, but, what people pay for is the ability to consolidate it and be more efficient where it's like everything's in one spot now. I know exactly
Yeah.
where to get it. I don't have to go watching 15 videos to try to find the content I'm looking for. And it's, it's the whole model behind like Uber. It's like you're just selling them their time back. It's
Mhm.
and it's saving someone time from searching or looking trying to research this, where it's like, I'll just sign up for the course and I have everything I need right in front of me.
Right, and I think the other enticing idea is to know that, well, you do have, like, a tutor, so that was one of the ideas that I liked a lot in that, like, if you would sign up for, like, a premium course, you could, reach out, get a question answered, this or that, and that was almost like the impetus behind the Facebook group, so the Home Repair Tutor Facebook group, and that's grown a lot too over the years. And initially, the idea was to tie that into a course, which eventually I am going to do. But I think having a support group, just so you know that like you're not alone, right? I think we all need to feel that way in life, to know that like, hey, you're not alone. Like you have a buddy, you have a friend who
Mm.
you can lean on. Just like you have a brother or a sister, like you can contact them anytime. And I really love that idea behind like Facebook groups or like forums. Not necessarily the most scalable concept, but something that's helpful for the end user.
So fast forward to today, are you still in, um, I forget what you said, some kind of tech sales, right?
No, I do. So my full-time gig is basically making these videos and
Oh, really?
making the courses and stuff like that. So and then, the idea was like if we could do all that stuff full time, then we could kind of pull back from, doing home improvement projects and really focus in on quality. Like that's always been one of my visions was like, hey, look, I don't need to do like a million and one projects. Like there's a certain amount of insanity involved in trying to do that, whether it's ego or whether it's just trying to get off of the out of the whole rat race. My idea was, hey, let's just focus on like, maybe one or two a year, but really make them, try to make them the best. And then do filler, if I'm doing projects at other places, like I'll, make a video out of that for YouTube or Instagram. So that's kind of what I do full time now. And also studying, really just studying the craft. Bathroom
Mhm.
remodeling, and it involves so many different crafts, so many different trades. So like, whether it's framing, plumbing, tile work, it all has to be combined together into a course. So, and that's always never ending. So, I mean, like, that's why I said, like, I consider myself a student because there's just so much to learn and so much to implement into the course. And then you have to talk to your course members and learn what they want. So, that's pretty much more than a full time job.
So you've taken, basically scaled back the amount of renovation projects you're doing to, you said, one or two a year with some filler work. And then
Mhm.
you're just essentially taking that and then dividing that up into content that you can create on a weekly basis.
Yeah, that's pretty much the game plan right now. As long as my health holds out and everything, then that's kind of what I want to do for the foreseeable future. It just my mom and dad are older too, and so I want to try to spend time with them. My kids are going to college, so like they're gonna be, our daughter's leaving next week for college, and then our youngest is leaving right
Congrats.
after her next year. So it's one of those things, you get older, you're like, look, I just want to try to enjoy my time today. I'm not so much worried
Right.
about tomorrow.
When
So
did
it's
you
kind
make the
of
switch to doing this full time?
that was probably like two, little over 2.5 years ago. Yeah, yeah. So
And
like
did it just get to a point where you were doing so many projects that you were just burning the candle at both ends, trying to produce this content?
well, back then it was mostly me leaving my other job. So like I was in that technical sales job and then doing all the other it just got to be too much. So when you're doing home
Right.
improvement projects and you're, doing another job, you know how it is. Like you're doing all these different jobs and you're just like, I gotta scale back. Like I literally can't.
You
I'm
just
getting older.
described every business owner in this industry for the first 2 years.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
They're,
You're
they're,
just
they're
like
always doing a
burned.
side hustle so they can get it together, and then they go off.
Yeah, I just think it's too much, and your health starts to suffer. Like you're waking up at 4 in the morning to try and get stuff done, and you're staying up late trying to get stuff done, and it's not very healthy for you or your family. So
Yeah.
Yeah. The thinking about running a business, doing the home improvement on the side and the content creation, it's just I can see I was curious if it was your full-time gig because, in order to build something like a course and then continue to fulfill it where it's like I can only assume that, right now it says your website says 325 tutorials. I'm sure that you're either continuing to add to that or replacing some of the early ones with newer content, or probably a mix of both. But it's,
yeah,
good.
yeah, it's gonna be different actually moving forward. Because one of the things that I realized was right now, I send people over to Bathroom Repair Tutor to consume the course. But unfortunately, the way that like Instagram and Facebook work, if you want to, like you've seen on Instagram where you're like, they like Keen Utility is a good example. So they sell their boots right off of Instagram. You can buy, that's what I did. I bought my boots right on Instagram. But the only way that you can do that is if you're sending people to your website. Keen can't be sending people to like Red Wings website.
Hmm.
So one of the changes that I want to do is I just want to have all the courses be on Home Repair Tutor so that I can do that. And that's going to be a cool experiment to see if we can do it. I'm not entirely sure because most products sold on Instagram and Facebook aren't digital. They're, you know, basically you can see
Physical.
them and touch them. Yeah.
Hmm.
So I don't know. And actually tomorrow well, this week I'm going to have, occasionally I can do like interviews with Facebook and stuff, which is kind of cool. So like I'm sure other people doing what you do user experience studies with them. And that's neat because you can ask them questions and they kind of get you answers and stuff like that. So I've always been like, hey, I want to see around the curve here. And I visualize this as being like seeing around the curve because if you can keep somebody on the platform and they trust in that platform to use their credit card, that's going to make scalability on those platforms for course creators like huge. And so like that's why I'm deciding to change things to just kind of be on Home Repair Tutor moving forward. But I see these things, the platforms all copy each other. So, you got Instagram with their reels, you've got TikTok, and now we have YouTube Shorts. Okay,
Right.
all of them pay absolutely jack squat to the creator in terms of like how much money you make on those. That's kind of ridiculous, really. So, if I can sell courses and, if I am able to scale that up, it's so much better than having to be beholden to the platforms. And also, I love the diversification, whether it's with your finances or your social media. If you're big on every single platform, then, most likely if I can sell a digital product tomorrow on Instagram, I'm probably going to be able to do it on YouTube and TikTok within the next probably 3 to 5 years. So who knows? Maybe that'll be the case.
It's interesting to see, like, especially right now, and John and I were actually talking offline about this a little bit, but, everything is really driven around, courses and coaching and like, taking everyone's taking these individual initiatives to learn. And we think about oftentimes on this podcast we talk about the disservice that college had done for a lot of us, or
Mm,
how we felt as though college didn't teach us the necessary skills, or wish that it taught us something else. And now we're it seems like you were certainly very early in the course side of things, but now it's becoming so much more relevant, where it's like, John, I know you've done the master classes, like you've
Mhm.
taken some of those. It's like we're watching MT Copeland, come into the building and renovating space in order to create, really well produced like very high quality produced content around very specific tasks in our trade. And it's, you
Mhm.
know, I for me, and hearing you talk about it, it seems like we're still, while you were years ahead, we're still like right at the infancy of this, where this is going to continue to replace, what I would call normal education. Would you agree?
Yeah, I do agree with that. My daughters were in high school during the pandemic, and I saw right away how they became acclimated to taking classes. They couldn't go to school. They had to stay home. So they were okay with taking all their classes on their computer. And our daughter who's going to college, she's even possibly not going to be buying books, but consuming the content on her computer. And, to me and my wife, it blows our mind because we would go buy like, $500 worth of books that were this thick, like on physical chemistry, right? And there was no other way
But
back
you
then.
you try and
But
find used
now,
ones, remember?
exactly.
That
And
was that
those were
was a
even
secret.
expensive.
You'd be trying to right, but you try and dig up the
Yeah.
used ones and try and make sure the version didn't change. And God, those are the days.
Yeah, you're like, "Oh, man, I have the 3rd edition and I need the 4th edition. Is this gonna fly?" Yeah, but
Exactly.
I do think that, like, the younger generations, they're books, like, please forget it. They're gonna just be able to go on their phone or whatever device, and they want it, like, instantaneous, right? So, yeah, I think having something digital, and the other idea that I love is the modular approach to the digital course creation. So, I can basically, if something does become outdated, I can just take it out or recreate it or not even have it in there altogether because it's not even relevant anymore. So I want the capacity to be able to do that where I can just take it out, put another video in, and it's not a big deal. So course designing in my mind, like it really needs to have that modular approach where you can do that and you can do it very quickly. And then you can create a marketing video about that you post on like Instagram or TikTok, and that works, like it definitely helps out a lot.
No, I dig it. I think I was talking to a kid, I don't know how many years ago now, and he was an intern for me, and he wanted to go into architecture. And I started in architecture at Wentworth, and I was like, this is cool. I like it. And then I was drawing like just stupid shit and, shading and all that stuff. And I get it. And you have to have all this trust in this teacher that when I look at it now, I'm like, I have to have all this trust in a teacher that's just going through the motions because they've been doing it for over 10 years. Like
Right.
they've lost, like I say the same thing to builders. I just did a talk at JLC, and it's like, you can't meet this client and then explain to them how the process is going to be and then go, I do this every day. How many builders, how many contractors have given us that excuse? So I've been doing this for 20 years like this. It's like, dude, but just because you've been doing it wrong for 20 years doesn't mean it's right to do it with me. And it's like, I want it to be exciting. I want it to be like it's the first job for both of us again. And it needs to be exciting because then the mojo is there. Then they're excited to do the
Yeah.
product, not just going through the motions because it's your 1500th time of doing this walkthrough for lighting. So for me, it's like a teacher that's kind of going through the same, week 7, day 14 of this course. Like, is it fun for them anymore? Are they just doing it for a paycheck? And I think right now is the possibility of, I told that kid then, I go, if I were to redo it, you have access to some of the greatest architects like Teak, Brendan Ingram, all these different people. I'm like, I would just go get an apartment. I mean, what's the apartment going to cost me for a year? Like 12 grand? I don't know. I'm throwing shit out there. And then just go intern for them for free. So my
Right.
semester is 12 grand and I'm getting the best out of the industry. And then if I take my next semester over at Teak and go, all right, I'm going to go do this, it's like they get a free intern that's absolutely immersed and obsessed with this. And you could get, like I say it all the time, some of our projects, if you get someone that comes to us and works for us as a PM or a super, they will gain 2 years of experience in the 1 year of the project we're going to have, because the pace, the details, all that stuff. Now go do that with an architect or whatever. It's interchangeable. But that's how, if I were to look back at it, and if my son were to say he wants to go into architecture, it's the exact same conversation I'd have with him and say, hey, this is what I would do. I would go reach out to these people now, get that going, and have, but take a year off. Take a year off, but go experience some of the best architecture of the modern era, and have that fun. And then after a year, you go, you know what? It ain't for me, dude. That's how you should experience it. Not spend $70,000. Don't get me wrong. I love the friendship part of it, of college. Right. Some of my best friends I've had, but beyond that, man, the first 2.5 years, I could have picked anything for a major. It was just a placeholder. So I think that, I think this could all change. I think platforms are great for it, but I think people having an open door policy and having interns and being able to experience it real time where they shadow you. I know it's not a paying thing, because Nick and I were talking about this before. It's like, as soon as you pay somebody, you have a massive obligation. It's like your gas gauge goes from full to empty, and you're like, whoa, hold on. You get overly concerned. And then it's like, how do you make sure that they're actually getting something out of that once you start paying them? But if they're shadowing you, it's on their terms. You get me? I would want my kids to go there and go, hey, if you don't want to get until 10, dude, then you don't want it. This isn't for you. But if you want to get up at 5:30 and be there first, guess what? This is the right avenue for you. I don't know. For me, this is a touchy thing, because I love the online courses. I think it's a great option for people to actually get their feet wet and stuff without a massive commitment, like college. Like, you're on this thing, and then there's this. When I was younger, it's like, you're taking a year off. Everyone looked at you like you had like some crazy disease, and it's like, all right, well, I can't do that. And then you go to college, you don't drop out because you don't want to be a dropout. So it's like, what are my odds here? I'm going to get shunned either way. I don't know. That was my rant. My radio John.
Well, I completely agree, because we talked to our daughter about the return on investment for college, both of them really. But, even for somebody who wants to go into construction and to learn that, there are technical schools, but they're very expensive. And then you come out of technical school and you may not even have all the skills required to do some of these projects. But the cool thing is, with a course, for a very affordable price, you could learn all of these different skills. You could refine them. You could add to that yourself through personal experience. It's just really cool. And I totally agree with you, Johnny. The thing is, like, you have to be passionate about what you do. I mean, you have to be to the point where it's like, I'm waking up at 5, but I'm excited because I get to edit all this content, or I get to post this video, or I think this is going to help somebody out. And it's really the thing I try to stress to our children is, if you can fall in love with the process, not so much the end result. Like, if I sell a course, that's awesome. It helps out financially. But the process is what you want to fall in love with. The process of learning and to share those ideas. That is really, to me, the ultimate achievement. It's not so much how much I make, or, where I live or what I do. It's just enjoying that day to day. And that's really, to me, true happiness, and trying to seek that out. Like you're saying, like, if you just do an informal internship with somebody who's already doing what they want to do, and if they teach you some really awesome things and you take away that education and you're able to use it somewhere else, that's fantastic. And you've proved to yourself that, because you're doing it on your own nickel, that, that's what you want to do. Like, that's really important.
But you're committing to it.
A lot of people. Yeah, absolutely.
You're committing to it on your terms, not applying for a college and getting a scholarship or whatever it is, financial aid. Those aren't your terms. You're kind of following in this road that's been made forever. I just think there's a different way. I mean, I love the content as well because I'm thinking about it going, I've watched ridiculous videos, and whether it's like I blew a fuse in my car and I can't charge my laptop, and I'm watching a video on where the hell they're located on the driver's passenger side door. How do I pop the dash apart and then get the fuse in? And I think about that, and it's like I wasn't a very savvy student, and it was like there was so much pressure that you're in the classroom that am I taking too long on the test compared to someone that finished early? Like there's that whole compounded nervousness that comes into it where it's like, if I'm watching a video, dude, I can pause that some bitch 25 times and no one needs to know. You get me? And I can just go through that step in on my own terms, how I want to go about it. There's no one judging me. There's no one timing me out. There's none of this stuff where I have to be a special ed student or I have to be this. There's none of those categories. You're what is it? College grade, college prep, Latin, so all these different categories you have to get into play. This is leveling the field, in my opinion, and you get to digest it on your own terms. And I think that's what's so appealing, on every aspect. I know there's not, some of the master classes on architecture are so high level that I don't think my kids would get it at, 14, 15. And I say that because I think now is a time to expose them to that. Correct me if I'm wrong. You're a couple, classes ahead of me for graduation, but like right now it's like, how do I expose my kids to more things to see what they're going to, otherwise it's the freshman year. It's like, all right, they're going to talk to someone at the caf or at a party and go, what are you doing? I like graphic design. It's awesome. All right. You like maybe I like graphic design. Maybe I should switch majors to graphic design. That's how this whole thing rolls. So how do we expose them to more of this? And I think that's what's great about social. But for the most part, they got stuck on some bullshit YouTube channel. I'm trying to look through the door. We're on vacation. They're probably watching like some ridiculousness that has nothing to do with what they're going to do in the future of life. But how you define success was great, is that you want to get up and do that every day.
Yeah.
And I think that's the key thing, is that so many people get caught in, you get on the rails at college and you never get off the tracks. Mm-hmm. And you watch everyone else. It's like Tyler dirt bike riding. You're like, dude, I'd love to do that, but I got this thing. I got this career. People call me crazy if I bail on it now. I don't know.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of people go down roads that I don't know as if they want to continue to go down the road, but they're just kind of stuck, or they're a little bit too scared to like make the change. And that's fine, because we all have responsibility. There are responsibilities to family and friends and, finances and stuff like that. So I respect that. But it is hard to make those decisions and say like, well, look, I want to change. I want to do something different because I'm not enjoying what I'm doing. And, that was, something that I decided I wanted to do a long time ago. And, that was make videos, or just make tutorials in general. I just really like the process of doing that from start to finish, from being in the video. Really doesn't matter if I'm in the video, but I enjoy being in the video, explaining things, and then editing all that stuff I enjoy too. And then there's also a certain amount of happiness that comes with like, hey, did this like actually work? Like was I able to get this video to actually be seen and, processed, and hopefully it helped somebody out. That was kind of the ultimate. But I think that it's different for everybody, and online courses provide that opportunity. And that's why I'm a big believer in most people, anybody who's posting stuff online, like you could create a course out of it, but enjoy the process of making the course. If you don't enjoy the process, it may not be the right thing to do. So while I could be an advocate of making courses, if you don't enjoy doing it, don't do it. And you can learn to like it, but I just wouldn't push it onto somebody.
Learn to like it, such a strong phrase, because I felt like I've done that so many times, and then maybe I'm just relating it to food. And it's like, you know what?
Like, yes,
Johnny will never like sushi. Just,
Yeah, exactly. You'll keep chewing it. You'll never like it. No, I probably won't. No. I think if I like the people and how they work and how they navigate life, then I should chase down that avenue. You get me?
Mhm.
Like when you
Yeah.
find like-minded people is like you, and you go, oh my goodness, like this is successful for you. You know what? You have, like, we go on this podcast all the time, and you're like, some people are like, oh, you're shooting this guy down, blah blah. It's like, no, I'm legit asking questions that my mind are throwing at me, because I'm like, how does
Right.
this make sense? And if it does,
Mhm.
there has to be a certain amount of legitimacy to it, and I have to honor that because you're a guest on the podcast, and I'm like, dude, the dude's got something going on. Maybe I should rethink this. And is it, am I making enough time for things that are important to me? And like you said,
Mhm.
today, not, like there's so many hours in a day, and right now I give most of my hours to other families. I
Mhm.
think we all do in a way that's like, hey, I'm on that job, or I'm answering this text, and I'm on vacation this week, and I'm like, oh, so and so wants to, get on a face to face, and I'm like, do I drive down for 2 hours and just do a face to face meeting? Like, I'm willing to give up everything, my personal time, time with my family, like just time off, rebooting, because of what?
Mhm.
Is it a paycheck? Is it my livelihood? Is it my reputation? Is it I'm loyal? Is it I want to give back to somebody, and I feel like I'm not giving enough? Like, that's what blows my mind. So it's like,
Mhm.
if making videos and giving back to people or doing mentoring calls is what I find enjoyment now, then maybe that is a route that, instead of it being 110% to my clients, maybe I need to give more responsibility to the people I work with and take 20% back to do stuff like this.
Mhm.
I'm sure you had that when you were doing your tech stuff, and your 9 to 5 or whatever it was didn't get corrupted by this. And then it
Mhm.
slowly did, because you found more enjoyment in it. So maybe in a 60-40 split, correct me if I'm wrong, or, it was your family, maybe it was equal amongst your family time, work, and then this, but then it grew because there was more fun in it. And then it became, an asset to you and your finances.
Mhm. Yeah, it's just one of those things where I have so many different interests, but you're right. This what I currently do kind of it was the ultimate to me. You always everybody daydreams about what they could do, and I think I'm very fortunate because that actually came true. It took a while. It took 9, 10 years for it to happen, and that I guess that's another good learning moment for me. Is yes, I know that my for me, I take a little bit longer to do things. That's just how it is. I'm not a fast runner. I'm more of a long distance runner, literally. But the idea is that that's my kind of ethos.
Cadence.
It's just gonna, yeah, it's just gonna take, yeah, that cadence is just for me. It's gonna take a little bit longer, but I know with the proper planning and the way that I do things, it's gonna pay off. Like, if you read any kind of book, like if you read Ray Dalio's book, Principles, which is fantastic. I recommend that for anybody. That's kind of the thing, it's like you really need to stay focused in reality. You have to make sure that you get believability weighted decision making in your life. So you need to triangulate with people who know what they're talking about and have the full sense of the situation. And I'm fortunate because my wife is one of those people, and she's really been somebody that's helped me out a lot. So I think it's important to have those people in your life who support you so that you can get to where you want to be. And I'm a firm believer in, trying to envision what it is that you want. And even though it may take a little bit longer than what you perceived, it could be definitely worth it. But, don't lose faith in yourself. And, that also is tied into our courses. There's a little bit of philosophical um, benefit of the courses, where like at least the new one that I'm working on, I'm trying to encourage people to not give up and to, focus on quality. So anyhow, like, yeah, there's that opportunity with putting your own DNA into the course, which I think is really kind of cool.
Yeah. So at one point, did it go from like 60-40? Work was, you were trying to pull away from work more, or you were, let's put it this way, you were at your day job thinking about your side piece.
Yeah,
Side job.
absolutely. I think the
Side
problem
piece is
is
something else.
having an iPhone on you all the time, you can keep tabs on that stuff. So, back in the
So
day,
encrypted
like
quick.
before, yeah, you get corrupted really quick because people are reaching out to you and, this or that. And most of the time I say no to a lot of different things that get thrown my way because it just kind of takes away from the focus. But yeah, I think very early on, it was probably like 2013, 14 that I didn't want to really do the job that I was doing. So it took me another like 7 years to like get out of that. But anyhow, and do what I really wanted to do. But I think the idea is like, hey, once you're there, there's so many different things that you can do to like kind of supplement your income. And, I always try to help other creators with that stuff, like talk through that kind of thing. That's also what I kind of enjoy.
That's I was gonna. That's actually a great segue into what I want to talk about. Is from being a creator, speaking as you like, and other creators that are listening to this podcast. I know a lot of people like sharing and want to build these how-to, whether they're videos, courses, blogs, things like that. To be able to to be able to say that you've walked away from your quote unquote full-time job and now you do this full time, obviously there was a huge financial consideration there. So
Mhm.
looking at that from an income standpoint, as much as you're comfortable disclosing, like how did you, like, what is what is the
I want to be
income
like,
that you can
did it
make
take
from
7 years? Sorry, did it take 7 years from when you first started the side thing for it to be accomplished enough to make it a full time income?
Yeah, probably. It probably took that long or longer than that because I started in 2011. So it probably took close to like 8 to 9 years. And when I
so eight to
decided
nine
to go
years
full
of
time,
work?
yeah, yeah, 8 to 9 years of working. I mean, we first start working on YouTube. You're not making much money at all because it takes views
Right.
to generate the revenue, generate the ad revenue, and then everybody's RPM is different. So that's something that's always, revenue per mil, which is different than CPM. So, CPM is one thing, but RPM is what you get paid on. So if your RPM is really low, but your CPM is really high, what does it matter? You're not making any
CPM
money.
is cost per million?
Yeah. So cost per mil per thousand. So like, you could be making like $1 for every 1,000 views that get viewed,
Mhm.
1,000 views of your video. But,
Sure.
if your RPM is way higher, so your revenue per mil, let's say that's like $3 or $4 per every 1,000 views. That's
Mhm.
great. And that's another thing with home improvement. The RPM and the CPM is higher than in other categories. But here's a little secret that a lot of people don't know. And sometimes I get this comment on social media like, oh, you have these courses. Why don't you post all these videos to YouTube? You'll make tons of money. Well, that doesn't happen. I love YouTube and they've provided me with a great, revenue stream. But what they tend to do these days is they'll promote a video. So you might see a video that has like 1 million views or like, 4 million views and think like, oh my God, they made a small mint on that. Well, when YouTube is promoting that video, like they're legitimately promoting the video, you don't really make any money on it because they're putting all their resources into promoting the video for you so that you get your views, so that you might get new subscribers and this and that. So if you see a video that's really popular on a channel, it doesn't necessarily guarantee that creator made a ton of money on it. And so that's really, it can be devastating. And that's why you don't see, and you won't see a majority of my full tutorials on any social media platform, because it's really like in my mind, almost disrespectful because a lot of it takes a lot of time, number one, to make the content, a lot of time to edit it, and then a lot of time to market it. And so those three things combined, if one of them isn't working, if you're not marketing it right, whether on YouTube or for the course, it's not going to work. And so I just wanted to take that out of the algorithm altogether. But in terms of like revenue, like YouTube is definitely the big dog. They pay way better than um okay, so like in my mind, YouTube pays the best, but that's just my channel. And then Facebook is probably next. And then Instagram, I mean, like they're starting out with IGTV. And unfortunately, right now, you only get paid if the video does well, like that day or, for 3 days. And then the revenue like tapers off. But in terms of like revenues staying up there, like YouTube is the best, and then probably Facebook is second. Because right now, Facebook is trying to, they're trying to compete with YouTube in long form videos. And then TikTok, it's just like a joke. The amount of money that they pay out of their creators fund is just a joke. And I mean, I wouldn't even consider TikTok a form of revenue, honestly. It's just so bad.
It's funny. I just sent Nick something I screenshot the other day on my IG. Is that I don't know what it was. Maybe I added the whole booking thing to my IG, and so it added a bank account to it. But it gave me the ability to get into promotion summer reels for a reels. So it was basically Instagram was telling me that I could then make money off of my reels just if I wanted to click into this. In progress is only one thing that's available. I sent it to Nick. It said summer reels are available, and they'd give me bonuses for me actually creating a reel. I am the lowest person on the totem pole on social media compared to every one of my friends, and Nick in particular. So I was like, I didn't send it to these guys because I was like, they probably know about this. They've probably known about it for years. They're probably making a couple of bucks here and there, and I'm just oblivious. So it was kind of funny that you just mentioned that, and it just kind of came up on me the other day.
It was my bad.
Yeah, current zero. But have you done it? Like,
no, I've seen it. And I got a bunch of notifications saying, "Hey, we noticed that you went live. If you go live for 20 minutes 3 times in a row, we'll pay you $150." I was like,
"Oh, yeah."
Like every time? I was like, well, "Okay, I'll go live I'll just drive around live."
Yeah, this explains
I was like,
well, it explains to me why a lot of people go live. I've seen some people in our space go live a lot. And I know that you can make money going live on Reels and going live on TikTok and all that jazz. But dude, you're just trading dollars for hours and you're doing what the algorithm wants you to do.
Right. I mean, they're the goal, any of the social media stuff, is very much like you have to be, they want you to be using their latest thing. And if Reels is the latest thing on Instagram, so of course they're going to push it. And then,
Right.
The store, like, of course they're going to start pushing the store. Like I forget what button it was, but it was like they changed one of the most commonly used button on Instagram to the little shopping bag. And it was like every time I logged in, I was like, I kept going to the shopping page. I'm like, I don't need new boots. And it's funny you say Keen, like Keen kept popping. I'm like, I don't need new boots. Stop going to this page. I just want to see, my notification. I think it was the notifications button, but it is, and you're absolutely right. It's like, yeah, $150 sounds great, but it's like, yeah, I'm just trading my valuable time at work for $150. It's like, sure, like for 20 minutes for the work, that's not bad, but it's like, the reality is like my time is probably worth more than that, focused on something that more important, such as work. But it's like they're creating these funds to essentially drive traffic to the parts of their program that they want people using. But so going back, Jeff, to my question, I kind of was dancing around it, but it's like, in terms of revenue and income and like the money that you can make, what is that income, and like how is it divided up? Obviously you're talking about YouTube revenue, you're talking about social media revenue, then you got the courses that you have like different different scales from $100 to $250. Like there, how is your income kind of spread out? Because that's one thing that you said is like you like working with other creators to help like diversify the income stream. So,
Mhm.
ho-
Yeah, if you look at a pie chart and you divvy up the pie chart, that's probably what you're asking about, right? What percentage does each platform or
yeah,
revenue
what's the pie
stream?
chart like? Is it something that you can make $1 million a year doing? Is it, is it more of
Yeah, like what tax bracket are we talking about?
So like tax brackets totally different, but diversification I can get into that. It's different for everybody. Plus, it depends on where you live, and living in Pittsburgh it's fairly affordable. Boston is quite different, and in DC stuff like that. So living in Pittsburgh we're fortunate, things aren't getting too crazy. Although the housing market
Mhm,
in my opinion is out of control. But if you were to look at like if you were to it's pretty diversified. I would say like personally speaking, YouTube is probably like I don't know. It could be close to 50% and then Facebook would be maybe like another uh I don't know. Facebook might be like another 25%. Core sales might be like another like 20% or so. 20 yeah. So then like the rest of that is like, oh, I forgot Amazon affiliate revenue. And then you have like Instagram. That's newer to me, the whole Instagram thing. I'm not like super excited about IGTV from a revenue perspective. But like the three main things for me would be like YouTube, Facebook, courses, and probably Amazon to a lesser extent, because they always kind of mess with the percentages and stuff like that. But in terms of like revenue diversification, yeah, it's probably the biggest hitter for me is YouTube, and then it depends on the month, but like courses and like Facebook are probably kind of like somewhat tied a little bit,
mm.
and then Amazon and it's IGTV.
It's interesting. I didn't realize if I were to guess, I thought the courses would be higher, especially the way you kinda had talked about them before, but,
Right.
I can almost see why someone would say, put all of your focus on YouTube. If YouTube is, let's just use $100,000 salary for an example. If YouTube's
Right.
giving you $50,000 of that, that's a pretty substantial chunk where it's like, well, what if you were to refocus and push the YouTube thing harder, peeling away from the courses. But I think
Hmm.
what you were getting at earlier is like you really want to start focusing on building out the courses to be the main source of income, so you have the control over it. Where
Exactly.
YouTube is just funneling is higher up on the funnel.
So if somebody were to propose that to me, here's what I would say. So this is the time when, I would say like to my employee, I'd be like, okay, take some notes because I'm going to explain to you why I wouldn't go that route. So YouTube's algorithm changes all the time. Okay. And they control the content. And they control, I mean, it's abundantly clear with YouTube Shorts, they control the little on off switch. They choose how that works. And also,
Mhm.
too, they've also made it clear that advertising revenue is not really what they want to be focusing on moving forward. Yes, they're mostly making money off ads, but they see that going down over time, which is why you see things like super chat and super thank yous. And I think that's what it's called. That's relatively new. So they're trying to come up with different ways to entice creators to make money on the platform. So that goes up and down. Anytime my wife she looks at that stuff because she used to be an actuary, she gets concerned about like, oh my god, July, June, July are like horrible months. I'm like, yeah, but that's historically how it is. Those are really bad months, and that's also one of the reasons why a lot of people don't. That up and down drives people nuts. I'm sorry, you're going to ask something, Nick?
You just said 3 things that I have no idea what they are. So, super
Ah,
thanks and super something.
So
What is that?
super chat, these are different ways. Like if
Okay.
you do a live video and you do
Mhm.
like, people can like basically tip you. So they do like a
Oh,
super
the
chat.
tokens. Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's kind of like that format. And super thank yous are like, that's new. Basically, that's YouTube trying to make Patreon extinct in my mind,
Gotcha.
where people can
So
just
that's
kind of
where
like,
like
they
you
can
can
pay you
basically
like
create a
10 bucks.
paywall,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I think is on YouTube you can also create a paywall for like second another level of content, like
So
different
those are
videos. Like if you wanted to
memberships.
pay memberships, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so you can create memberships if you want to on YouTube. Like if you're a certain level, you can create monthly memberships and it can be, I can't remember, there are different price points. And in my
Sure.
mind, this is YouTube getting people used to pulling out their credit cards on the platform. So like Amazon,
Gotcha.
they have your credit card information. It's so easy to hit that buy now button. Well, what I kind
Mhm.
of envision is like YouTube just needs to get people used to paying, like they want you to
Mhm.
be used to like
So
actually
eventually when you
ponying up
hop
a
on their
little.
website, they come across something, there's not even a enter your credit card. It's like, "You cool?
No.
Pay."
Right.
Right.
Yeah. I
So
mean, you
so
could
for the
pay
guy
to
with
get rid of the ad.
so the guy with 4 videos, when you say at a certain level, so I should start having memberships when I do my fifth video on YouTube.
Yes.
Like,
Well, the
what
problem
are we?
is
What?
they take a percentage. So like that's the other thing. So you might be charging like $5 a month, but they take, their percentage out of that. Plus then you get into the whole thing of like, well, you know, what if I don't want to do that membership anymore? What do I do? What do I tell all these people? So that's a little
So
bit
that
more
membership would
difficult.
be individual videos for that membership, not what's on your regular page.
You're providing something above and beyond the normal
Yeah.
that people are seeing on your YouTube. So it could be like a weekly live video. It could be another video you do like videos on Tuesday, Thursdays. And so the issue that, and I was on like another call with YouTube a long time ago, and they had asked, like, well, why don't you do membership? Or maybe it was even like Facebook. And I said to them, here's the deal. When I initially came out with when we were coming out with courses, the monthly subscription thing was horrible. You got the worst customer and the most churn. So churn is, in my mind, that is defined as people saying, I no longer want your service, discontinue my service. So the lower the price point, the worse the customer. Like that's not a good customer. They're going to be needy and they're not going to be appreciative of the content. But the higher the price, it's a different customer. They're more appreciative. They can do things on their own. They're not as needy. And I really hate this, it just, that's my own market research. So they,
Mhm.
the YouTube thing, it was like, memberships are like $4.99 a month or $10.99 a month. But you can't really, I just don't think that's a great way to go for our specific thing. But to
Sure.
know for certain, my recommendation is to try it, see how, if you really want to go that way, try it out, see how it goes, and then you can determine whether or not that's the way you want to go. But I just didn't like having a platform kind of dictating how I was going to run my
Right.
membership or my courses. I just didn't like that.
So understanding that YouTube doesn't, that's not your recommendation as to where you would put all your focus, and you're talking about building out the core structure more and
Mhm.
basically bringing everyone to homerepairtutor.com. What is that, you know so let me ask you two questions. Number one, everything that's on your site, is that, your like, is that built by you, or is that a plugin like Teachable or these other course creation tools,
So
or
here's the issue with Teachable and like Thinkific and stuff like that. So I mean, they're great platforms. I looked into them and they're kind of the same on the back end.
Mhm,
Um, but you can't really design, like they have a user experience that just, I actually went back and forth with Teachable several months ago and they were awesome. They were super nice and they
mhm,
really tried to help me out as much as possible to go to that platform. but we just didn't like the UX. We didn't like the user experience, and from a marketing perspective, it didn't give me what I wanted to make the sales videos for like Instagram and Facebook.
Mm,
Because there was a certain, when you make a marketing video, you want it to look a certain way. It has to look clean. And the UX for Teachable just didn't look clean enough. Like I was racking my brain trying to figure out how I was going to make the sales video because that's what's most important. Like, how are you going to market this thing? It's not so much
sure.
like, can I just throw a course up and it's there? I could do that today, but I don't want to do that. So, like, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be using like a custom theme. It's going to be built on the back of WordPress, which isn't going to go away. And I like that. And the other thing is, it ties in all these other little things that all rely on each other. But I'm not just relying on one platform. If Teachable goes under, or Think If It goes under, I'm kind of screwed. But I know WordPress isn't going under. Like, that's what I know. It's going to be around for a very long time. And the other thing is, like, you can always get a developer to build out a course for you. So like if the plugins that I'm using, or like the custom theme that I'm using isn't valid anymore, I can always get a developer to help me out and keep that updated. So I just truly believe building it off the back of WordPress, which is widely accepted on the web, and they constantly keep it updated. That's kind of the way to go. And then you control the user experience. And most importantly, you control the ability to market the course the way that you want. So I ran all these tests over the last several years. And frankly, that's where the social media stuff is the most important. When you're running tests and you're seeing what's working in terms of
Mhm.
like not only the views, I mean, the views are nice, don't get me wrong, but what was most important was seeing what videos produce the sales. So we have a really good idea of like, okay, if I produce this video, I know that that's going to be one that people like, and I can make the video according to like a formulaic way. And I can pretty much say like, hey, I think we're going to make some sales off of this. So anyhow, that's why I didn't go on to Thinkific or Teachable. That's why I really don't like YouTube all that much, because how am I going to make a I mean, I could make a sales video for my membership on YouTube, but if YouTube
Right.
changes that or they change the UX, I'm kind of like stuck. Like I'm screwed, really.
Well, it's
So,
interesting because I think that's the, I guess the benefit of working with someone like Teachable or another platform is that
mhm,
you're just putting the content up. Like you're putting it up, and then from a marketing perspective, you're dealing within the parameters what they allow you to do, but you're not having to hire a developer to build it up.
right,
But it's
right.
like so for you, you saw more benefit, to actually take the time to start from scratch to be able to control the entire process.
Yeah.
You know
Yeah. I wanted to control the environment for the user. And
right.
we didn't, my wife and we looked at Teachable and I just didn't feel like for like a traditional course, like a master class kind of course, because I have master class and I specifically bought it to study it. And I think have
Mhm,
done a beautiful job with the user experience. They have. Um, in terms of like the details of the course, it's okay. They mostly get you on the
mhm,
marketing. They make it cool and this and that, and they get some famous people to create courses. So, like, who wouldn't want to take a course from Martin Scorsese, right, on directing, or Ron Howard? So they got you there. But the idea was, I just didn't think that like Teachable, like once you got in there, I got 100 some videos. It's going to be a hot mess to try to number one
mm,
organize that, and number
mm,
two, like to help somebody find what they need. I just didn't think that they were going to find what they needed quickly.
sure.
So
Yeah,
I mean, I could be wrong and maybe Teachable will change, but for our specific genre, I was just like, not right now. I just don't think it's right.
fair. So as you continue to refine your side of things, obviously utilizing social media as more of a marketing tool than anything, what does
Mhm.
that mean for, your courses and your website and things like that? Like, what do you what's the 5-year plan, 10-year plan? How
Mm,
do you see it evolving?
man, it evolves so fast. The pace of evolution online is crazy. And so, I mean, to just keep up with one platform is enough. But what I really see is, Instagram is kind of leading the way here a little bit, having their shops and everything. So if I can go that route and just sell right on the platform, it's basically going to be the same product. So whether you buy
Right.
on Instagram or Facebook, or you buy off of my website, the user experience is going to be the same once you get into
Mm,
the course. But I
sure.
really see that as a big game changer because um, you're eliminating maybe two steps for the person. So they say, hey, I have my course on Instagram. All they have to do is click on the little button that you mentioned, takes them to a sales page. They see what they like, they
Mhm.
enter their credit card information, boom, done. So I already
Right.
eliminated that one or two extra steps of them having to leave Instagram, which obviously Instagram doesn't like and Facebook
Mhm.
doesn't like. But if they choose to do that, they have to take a few extra steps to buy it off my website. So what I see happening over the next 5 years is like digital products perhaps becoming a little bit more mainstream on the social media platforms. And I also think that I hope that more creators will create courses independently and be able to generate a revenue that supports them and their families and helps out the people viewing the courses. No doubt, it's a lot of work, but I think it's feasible, and I think it's something that everybody should consider. Just know that it takes a little while to do it, but that's where I see it going in like 5 years. I could be wrong. I think the whole advertising model is I don't really see it going away because advertisers, they want to market. The VP of the company in charge of marketing, they want to have a good explanation to the CFO and the CEO of like where they're spending their money and the return on investment. So if you can do that with ads, then
Mm.
albeit, go that route. So I don't see ads going away anytime soon, but I see them declining a little bit in lieu of like other ways of generating revenue.
So to kind of flip that question, now what about from a craftsperson or tradesman? Like, how do you see yourself evolving there? Are you going to continue are you out of the rental market at this point and focused on, small renovations, or?
It's a great question because I bought the rental properties originally for college. So college is here, right? so, so like they're
So
getting
for the
sold
record,
one
I feel like he went in and renovated these rental apartments over and over again. Like this
yeah.
bathroom he did, he's
Yeah.
like every 3 months he's in there renovating this. When you're telling this whole story in the back of my head, it's like, dude, his people that he rented to must have been like, how many times are you gonna update this bathroom, man?
Yeah.
Just keeps going in there and cranking out updates for his videos.
No, I wish that were the case. A lot of our renters were there for like 10 years, 11 years. So like it was really hard to do anything because they were there forever and they were nice people. But as they moved out, I decided over the last year to just, sell those homes. But what I see happening is selling the rentals, to pay for college, which was the original plan 17 years ago. So I'm just executing that 17-year plan. And then, doing just not even a handful, but like, even right now, I'm thinking of the projects I'm going to be doing over the next year. I'm like, that's enough. Like, I don't need any more. Like, I'm kind of good to go. And
Mm.
even my wife has told me, she's like, don't make any promises to anybody. Like, you're already super busy. I'm like, okay, like, I'll just, you know, commit 1 month at a time and see where we are. So I really kind of foresee like, just doing kind of one-off projects, maybe, a few a year, and that's about it. And then building out courses and obviously social media videos and stuff like that. So that's kind of that is a short-term game plan, but like that kind of got all thrown up in the air just like a week ago because I had a health scare. And that taught
Which
me that, like, hey, you don't know if you're going to be around next week. So you can plan for next year. God bless you. But it doesn't mean that you're going to be around next year. So
right.
just do what you can do right now. So just focus on what you can focus on right now.
I mean, what a better way to make that bring that full circle into some of the reasons why you did this in the beginning is to be able to spend more time with your family, to be there for
Hmm.
your kids going to college, to actually enjoy, life rather than be controlled by our work environment. And that's something that we talk about on this podcast a lot is that we're constantly controlled by, you know, people that give less shits about us than we do them. And where we should be focused on, the people that do care about us, like our family and friends and so on. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
absolutely. Yeah, you have to. I guess I'm thinking in that way, not from like a self-centered perspective, but that's just the reality of the situation is that everybody's focused on their own existence. You have to realize that. And it's a good thing to say, like, hey, I want to spend more time with my family. It's because it's a limited amount of time that you have, and you don't
mhm,
know if you're going to be here tomorrow. It's really that simple. So try. That's
right.
why we do come full circle now. That's why I say enjoy the process. Don't enjoy. I
Yeah,
mean, you can enjoy trying to make the sale, whatever industry you're in, whether you're trying to convince
sure.
somebody to renovate their bathroom, or you're making a course, or you're building a huge project. But enjoy the process of trying to do all that stuff on a daily basis. That's really, I firmly believe that's where the happiness comes from. And try to do it the right way, but enjoy your family the most.
Yeah. Jeff, this was super cool. I appreciate,
Yeah.
I know you fit this in last minute, so that's greatly appreciated, but it's cool to see someone putting so much effort and I mean, for gosh, 10 years now, and to just you said that it was giving back to and helping individuals, but I do think that it's bigger than that. It's putting good information into this industry and offering, these crash courses or these kind of um you know, these secret videos of like, hey, this is the right way to do it, and this is what I've learned over the last 10 years of starting from just a guy with some rentals to becoming someone that's going to teach the very best way because I'm putting the time and effort into to learning it. And at, $100 or $250 for a course, I mean, that's a steal in my mind to be able to access that information and to get caught up to speed on a lot of best practices, and means and methods.
Yeah.
That was a
Yeah.
mouthful. Sorry.
You rocked it, though. It
Well,
was
thank
good.
you guys. Yeah. Yeah, thank you guys for having me on. It was a real joy, and it's always nice to talk to other people that you see on social and, you know, that they're real people. It's not just like some random video that you're watching every morning over coffee. So that's always
Well, I
cool.
love the fact that I love the fact that you put on your deep radio voice just so you don't wake your dog up to do these videos. I think that's my favorite part of all of this. And every time I watch it now, I'm gonna be like, "Oh, his dog's sleeping in the background."
Yeah, exactly. Like he's up there snoozing, and I'm down here trying to not wake him up. That's pretty much it. So, and then
That's
the
amazing.
voice that's not as like deep, that's me in the afternoon doing it, trying to squeeze it into like YouTube or some other
Yeah, right.
platform.
So you can go home.
Yeah, I'm like, I just want to get this done so we can. I mean, I enjoy it, but like, I
Sure.
know he's sleeping upstairs in the afternoon, so I got to get this done before he wakes up and needs to be walked. So.
Well, out of all the places that people can find you, what is the number one place that you want people headed over to find you?
Like I said, I really do love Instagram. So that's probably one of the best platforms to connect on. I do get DMs a lot and I try to answer those. Um, and I
Wait,
say
I
no
I
to a
just wanna
lot
make
of things so I can do that.
you you have it's Home Repair Tutor on Instagram, but am I right in thinking that you've also done this in Spanish?
So yeah,
Is
that's
that right?
I didn't even bring that up. That's like my 10-year plan. I'm trying to learn Spanish so that we can then do a lot of stuff in Spanish, including courses. But that's going to be a little while. But yeah, there are like other channels
Did
that
I
hopefully
feel like
will develop.
okay, yeah, that's right. You have other channels that are supporting other languages, which is incredibly smart. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
ingenious.
Well,
I'm gonna
Jeff.
stick with learning English.
Oh yeah, I don't even. I gotta perfect that before I learn anything. I realized the other day I did six years of Spanish in school, and I know nothing, which that's wild to me. But
So the
Yeah, it's a
system
little
worked.
tough. Yeah, good point. There's our school system right there.
yeah,
Yes.
uh,
Not blaming Nick. I'm blaming the system.
yeah, we'll blame the system. Don't take responsibility, you know. All right, Jeff. I appreciate it, man. Thank you for being on. And I'll make sure we tune into your videos and everyone can head over to Home Repair Tutor on Instagram and as well as the website if you want to check out his courses and YouTube.
Yep, definitely. Thank you guys so much for the opportunity. I really appreciate it.
It was
Of
awesome.
course,
Wish
man.
you the best health.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Looks like we got one review on iTunes. Johnny, I know you got to wrap up here, so we'll make it quick. But great show, guys. Been listening to for the last couple months, and I feel like I relate to each one in a certain way. That one's from Nate Drosler from Galena Hillside Homes.
Thanks, Nate.
Yeah. 948 ratings, still in the number one spot for the industry. We appreciate you guys taking the time to hop over on iTunes and giving us that 5-star review. If we need some improvement, which we always do, hit that Survey Monkey on our Instagram. Johnny looks at it, lets us know when they're making fun of us, and gives us some feedback. And I've realized that we have been doing a bad job about checking our email, or at least I have, because I've got a handful of
Do
emails.
you?
And yeah, well, we have gotten a handful of emails with some great guest suggestions. So we'll get back on top of that. And then next week we actually have Michael McAllowitz. Uh,
Ooh,
yeah.
that was a
So
big get.
he is an author. He's done the Profit
Profit
First,
first.
which if you guys aren't familiar with that, do a little research on it. It's a very interesting approach to the financial structure of a business. I know he's worked with Sean Van Dyke on a contractor specific one, but he's written and published many of books, and I think he's got a new one coming out that I would assume he's probably going to be promoting next week.
Yeah.
So we will see you guys then. This podcast is brought to you by Duration Molding and Millwork. If you're looking for high performance siding and matching moldings, look no further than Duration. Not only do their products check all the boxes in terms of durability, workability, sustainability, and overall good looks, but the products are readily available and the pricing has remained stable throughout the pandemic. How many products can say that? If you've worked with polyash before, you know how it performs. If you haven't, you owe yourself to give it a try. To learn more about Duration Polyash products, please visit their website at durationmillwork.com and be sure to follow them on IG.